Have you ever done everything right for your health? Cut back on red meat, avoided greasy food, tried to eat clean, and yet your kidney numbers still crept up, your urine looked foamy, and no one could really explain why. What if I told you that one small everyday food you probably eat without a second thought could quietly be overworking your kidneys every single morning? I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because over the last decade, I've watched far too many patients walk into my clinic shocked by their lab results, asking the same question again and again. Doctor, how did this happen? I thought I was eating healthy. And when we dig deeper, the real problem often isn't what they added to their diet. It's how they're eating something they believe is completely safe. Here's the urgent truth most people never hear. When your kidneys are younger and strong, they can tolerate small daily mistakes. But as we age, especially if you're living with diabetes, high blood pressure, or early kidney disease, those same habits can slowly damage the kidney's filtration system without pain, without warning, and without obvious symptoms, until it's too late to reverse. My name is Dr. Mark Ellis, and today I'm going to show you how a common food that's often praised as healthy can either protect your kidneys or silently push them toward failure, depending entirely on how you eat it. I'll walk you through the critical mistakes most people make, why doctors often miss them, and most importantly, the simple changes you can start using immediately to reduce strain on your kidneys and protect them for years to come. If you're over 40 or if kidney health matters to you or someone you love, don't skip a second of this, because one of the habits I'll explain later is something millions of people do every single morning convinced it's helping them, when in reality it may be doing the exact opposite. Let's start with a habit that many people still believe is healthy, even old school good for you, but in reality can quietly put serious stress on your kidneys: eating raw eggs or eggs that are barely cooked with runny whites and very loose yolks. I can't tell you how many times I've heard patients say, "Doctor, I grew up eating raw eggs. I've done it my whole life. I never had a problem." And that may have been true decades ago. Back then, immune systems were stronger, food systems were cleaner, and most people didn't live with diabetes, high blood pressure, or early kidney disease. But today, the body you have at 55, 65, or 75 is not the same body you had at 25. From a medical standpoint, raw egg whites contain compounds that interfere with the absorption of key B vitamins, nutrients, essential for nerve function, muscle strength, and metabolic health. Over time, this can worsen fatigue, nerve pain, and blood sugar control, especially in people with diabetes. And for the kidneys, that matters more than most people realize. Poor digestion means more nitrogen-based waste products enter the bloodstream, and your kidneys are the ones forced to filter every bit of it. There's also the infection risk. Even a mild gastrointestinal infection that barely affects a younger adult can trigger inflammation, dehydration, and kidney stress in older adults. Studies consistently show that people with diabetes and reduced kidney function are significantly more vulnerable to foodborne bacteria, even in small amounts. The solution isn't complicated. Eggs should be fully cooked. The egg white must be completely firm. The yolk can be softly set but never liquid. That simple change alone can reduce unnecessary kidney workload day after day. But knowing this is only the beginning, because the next mistake is far more common, and it's something millions of people do every single morning without realizing how dangerous it can be. If you've already stopped eating raw eggs, you might feel relieved, but this is where many people fall into a much bigger trap. Because the next habit feels safe, familiar, and even comforting: eggs fried until the edges are crispy and golden, sizzling in oil, smelling irresistible first thing in the morning. I've seen this pattern countless times. A patient proudly tells me, "Doctor, I don't eat raw eggs. I fry them well. I make sure they're fully cooked." And on the surface, that sounds responsible. But what most people don't realize is that when eggs are cooked at very high temperatures, especially in reused oil or animal fat, their chemistry changes in ways that quietly damage blood vessels, including the tiny vessels inside your kidneys. From a biological perspective, extreme heat creates oxidized fats and inflammatory compounds. These substances don't just affect cholesterol numbers on a lab report. They stiffen blood vessels and reduce blood flow to the kidney's filtration units. Research consistently shows that chronic low-grade inflammation accelerates kidney decline, particularly in people with high blood pressure, diabetes, or elevated triglycerides. There's also a hidden calorie problem. A boiled egg contains roughly 70 calories. A heavily fried egg can easily double that, especially when oil is absorbed. That extra fat worsens insulin resistance and raises blood pressure, two of the strongest predictors of kidney damage over time. The safer alternative is surprisingly simple. Use a non-stick pan with minimal oil or gently cook eggs using steam or water-assisted cooking. The egg still sets, still tastes satisfying, but without the inflammatory burden that forces your kidneys to work overtime. Many people make this change and feel they've solved the problem, but this is where it gets tricky. Because even if you cook eggs the right way, there's another part of the egg that quietly causes confusion and harm when eaten in excess, and most people never see it coming. Now, even after fixing how eggs are cooked, there's another mistake that quietly confuses a lot of people: the egg yolk. This is where I often see hesitation, guilt, and mixed advice collide. Some people avoid it completely out of fear, while others eat several yolks a day because they've heard eggs are back in favor. The truth sits somewhere in the middle, and for kidney health, that balance matters more than most people realize. I remember a patient in his late 60s who told me, "Doctor, I stopped frying eggs. I eat them boiled now, 3 eggs every morning. That's healthy protein, right?" His diet looked clean on paper, but his lab results told a different story. His phosphate levels were creeping up, his bones ached, and his kidney function was slowly declining, despite doing many things right. Here's the science behind it. Egg yolks are rich in cholesterol and phosphorus. In a healthy person with strong kidneys, excess phosphorus is filtered and excreted efficiently. But when kidney function begins to decline, even slightly phosphorus starts to accumulate in the bloodstream. Studies show that elevated phosphorus is linked to vascular calcification, bone loss, itching, fatigue, and faster progression of chronic kidney disease. Egg whites, on the other hand, are almost pure protein with minimal phosphorus. That's why nephrologists often recommend egg whites as a safer protein source for people with kidney concerns. The goal isn't to fear the yolk, it's to control the dose. For many people with early kidney stress, 2 to 3 yolks per week is reasonable, while egg whites can be consumed more regularly. Most people never hear this nuance. They think it's all or nothing. But kidney health is rarely about extremes. It's about precision. And even if you get the yolk balance right, there's still another hidden habit, one most people repeat every morning, that may strain your kidneys even more than yolks ever could. Now, even if you cook eggs gently and control the yolk, there's a mistake that almost no one suspects because it feels healthy, traditional, and harmless. In fact, many people do it every single morning without a second thought, eating eggs together with soy milk or drinking strong tea right after an egg-based breakfast. I once had a patient who was extremely disciplined. He avoided fried foods, limited red meat, exercised daily, and ate eggs the clean way. But his kidney numbers kept drifting in the wrong direction. When we finally walked through his morning routine step by step, he casually mentioned, "I usually have eggs with a glass of soy milk, or I drink strong green tea right after to feel alert." That was the missing piece. Here's what's happening inside the body. Eggs are a dense protein source, and protein digestion requires efficient breakdown and absorption. Soy milk contains compounds that can interfere with protein digestion, slowing the process and leaving more partially digested protein to be processed as waste. That waste doesn't disappear, it enters the bloodstream, and the kidneys are forced to filter it. Strong tea creates another problem. Tea contains tannins and other compounds that bind with proteins and minerals, reducing absorption and slowing gut movement. Over time, this can contribute to constipation, toxin reabsorption, and even kidney stone formation in vulnerable individuals. Studies show that impaired digestion increases nitrogenous waste, exactly what struggling kidneys are least equipped to handle. The fix is simple but powerful. Eggs should be eaten with plain water. If you enjoy soy milk or tea, wait at least 1 to 2 hours after your meal. That small timing change alone can significantly reduce unnecessary kidney stress. But don't relax just yet, because the next mistake isn't about what you eat or drink. It's about something many people do out of convenience, thinking they're being practical, and it may be silently exhausting your kidneys even faster. Now let's talk about a habit that comes from good intentions, saving time, avoiding waste, and being practical, but quietly puts a heavy burden on your kidneys: eating eggs that were cooked earlier, stored overnight, and reheated again and again. I see this most often in older adults who like to prepare food in advance. Someone will tell me, "Doctor, I boil a dozen eggs at once. I keep them in the fridge and eat them over a few days." That's convenient and healthy, right? On the surface, it sounds sensible, but biologically, this is where things start to go wrong. Eggs are extremely nutrient-dense. Once cooked, they become an ideal environment for bacterial growth, especially if the shell is cracked or removed. Even in the refrigerator, bacteria can slowly multiply. For a younger, healthier person, this might cause little more than mild stomach discomfort. But for older adults, especially those with diabetes or reduced kidney function, even low-level food contamination can trigger inflammation, dehydration, and kidney stress. There's another issue most people don't realize. Each time an egg is reheated, the protein structure changes. It becomes tougher, harder to digest, and more likely to pass through the gut partially broken down. That undigested protein doesn't just vanish, it turns into nitrogen-based waste that must be processed by the liver and filtered by the kidneys. Over time, this extra workload adds up. The safer approach is simple. Cook eggs fresh and eat them shortly after preparation. If you accidentally make too many, it's better to share them with someone younger and healthier than to push your own kidneys to handle unnecessary stress day after day. And yet, even if you avoid leftovers completely, there is still one final mistake, the most dangerous of all, that many people make without hesitation, and it can determine whether your kidneys slowly cope or rapidly fail. This final mistake is the most dangerous one of all, not because it's rare, but because it's so normal that almost no one questions it: eating eggs too salty. Salted eggs dipped in salt, eggs drenched in soy sauce, or eggs cooked with heavy seasoning. I've had patients tell me, "Doctor, it's just one salted egg," or "I barely eat meat, I only add a little salt, so the egg has flavor." And that's exactly why this habit is so destructive. Because salt doesn't cause pain, it doesn't cause immediate symptoms, it works silently and it goes straight for the kidneys. Here's the physiology. Excess sodium causes the body to retain water, increasing blood volume. That raises blood pressure, and that pressure repeatedly slams into the kidney's delicate filtration units, the glomeruli. Over time, those filters scar, stiffen, and fail. Studies consistently show that high sodium intake accelerates kidney decline and is one of the strongest predictors of progression toward dialysis, especially in people over 50 or those with diabetes and hypertension. Salted eggs are particularly dangerous. A single salted egg can contain several times the sodium of a regular egg. For kidneys that are already struggling, that amount is not a treat, it's an overload. Day after day, that extra salt forces the kidneys to work harder just to maintain balance until one day they simply can't keep up anymore. The solution is not to eliminate eggs, it's to retrain your taste. Boiled eggs already have a natural subtle richness. Chew slowly and you'll notice it. If needed, use herbs, pepper, garlic, lemon, or a very light diluted sauce instead of salt. Gradually reducing sodium is one of the most powerful ways to protect kidney function long term. And now that you've seen all 6 mistakes laid out clearly, the most important question becomes this: knowing what you know now, which small habit will you change first? Because that single choice may decide whether your kidneys cope quietly or reach a breaking point years sooner than expected. Before we end today, I want you to take a deep breath for a moment. If you recognize yourself in one or more of these habits, that doesn't mean you've failed. It means you're finally becoming aware. And awareness is where real healing begins. Kidney damage doesn't happen overnight, and in many cases, it doesn't improve overnight either. But what does make a difference is the small, consistent choices you make every single day: how you cook one egg, how much salt you use, what you drink with your meals. Those quiet decisions add up more than any pill ever could. If this video helped you see kidney health more clearly, I encourage you to save it so you can come back to it later, especially on busy mornings when old habits try to return. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every week I share practical science-based guidance to help you protect your kidneys, slow disease progression, and stay independent longer without fear, confusion, or extreme restrictions. Most importantly, remember this: it is not too late. Your kidneys don't need perfection, they need relief. And by changing even one habit starting tomorrow, you are already giving them a better chance to work more gently, more efficiently, and for many more years to come. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next video.